said it before years and years ago, but this is when I was in the belly of the beast and trying to figure out how to change and make transformation. You know what I mean? And I was struggling with that. And so I'm a kid from right over the bridge in Boyle Heights, right in Estrada Courts. And so growing up as a little kid in Estrada Courts, on Sundays when I wanted to go play outside, my mom would always say, since you didn't go to church, you got to listen to this pastor. So we listened to this pastor. This pastor's name was Reverend Fred C. Price. He just passed away in 2021, February 2021, I believe it was. And so, and because I was a little kid and I wanted to go play outside, all I could think about was going outside, go play, right? And so all I would remember is at the end of his sermon, at the end of his service, before he closed the show, he would say, walk by faith, not by sight. And so I was like, walk by faith. Mama, can I go outside now? My mom, all right, you can go outside. You go outside, so I run and I go play. So fast forward, 20 something years later, I'm in the belly of the beast, in prison. And I've just made a change, right? And try to figure out how I can change it in my life. And I'm looking for some signs that I'm doing this right, because there's nothing in prison to tell you that you're on the right track when you start trying to make changes. There's nobody there to tell you that you're doing a good job. There's nobody to pat you on the shoulder. If you don't have some letters coming in or a phone call that you can make from time to time for people to tell you they love you, the flames of hope can sometimes get weak, right? And so you'll give up in there. That's why we see some of the people making choices in there that they do. Right? And so I was one of those people. I was struggling. But some guy had put me in this group where I was able to work with these young kids, right? And so he would bring kids from group homes, from all surrounding places, surrounding counties up in Central California, right? San Joaquin County. So these kids would come from all over, group homes, placements, this and that. So one day we get these kids, right? And so we walk them through the institution, right? And they see that prison isn't what they think it is, right? And so a little sidebar to that was, so I was in D-Wing and this was in the Gladiator School. I don't know if any of you guys have been in prison long enough, you know that the Gladiator School is crazy, right? And so they don't call it that for nothing. So anyways, I figure if I can make a change here, I can make a change anywhere. So that's why I'm committed to this change. And so every morning I was also what they call a Mac rep. A Mac rep, right? So I would walk around, you know what I mean? Walk around with my catalogs every morning. I would come out on the weekends and go pass catalogs out so people could order their packages. And every 5 days a week, as I would walk down the hallways, right, this Officer Strickland would say, "Hey, Walker, don't be selling drugs in my prison." And so when they release in the morning to go to trade or to go to school, it's all one way because the guards are facing as you're walking down the hallways. So I would be walking with my partners and you could hear, "Walker, don't be selling drugs in my prison." And my buddy would be like, "Bro, what's up with that?" I'd be like, "That's his shit, bro." And in my head, I'll be like, "Walk by faith, not by sight. Walk by faith, not by sight." But I'm looking for these signs, right? Like, show me that I'm on the right path. Show me that I'm on the right path. So one day I walked past this same unit. After I walked down to go to this group to pick up these youth, the officer's yelling, "Don't be selling drugs in my prison." I'm like, whatever. So we come back through, I got these little kids, right? And then we get a bio on these little kids. And one of these little kids, he's probably about 9, 10 years old, but he looked like he was about 6 years old. And his grandmother had brought him in because he was having problems in school. And we weren't sure, but we knew that something was going on in his life. Because when kids are doing good in school and all of a sudden they start acting up, something's going on and you need to look into that. Mm-hmm. So they brought him so that we could talk to him. So I sit down, he's a little kid. And so in my family, I'm known as the baby whisperer. So when I see this kid, I get to his level. I'm like, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Eugene." He's like, "Hey, my name's Timmy." I'm like, "Hey, nice to meet you." I'm like, "Why are you here?" He goes, "My grandma brought me," right? And his grandma's one of those older ladies who's not in the best of condition. She smokes these long-ass Benson and Hedges cigarettes, and she has the constant shake. You know what I mean? It's kind of a sad scene because the kid isn't too well taken care of, and he has to be with his grandma because he can't be with his mom. So I get to knowing him, right? And I know I'm going to see this kid for 3 Saturdays, right? So I tell this kid, "Hey, you're my buddy." He goes, "You're my buddy." He goes, "Can we have lunch together?" And I go, "Yeah." So at lunchtime, you know, we have our sit down, and because I'm a baby whisperer, we're sitting on the floor side by side and we're breaking bread, having lunch. And then before we could break, he told me he had a secret. He goes, "But I'm not gonna tell you this time." So he didn't tell me that Saturday. He waited for a whole another week, right? So this is what he says. He goes, the first Saturday, he goes, "You're my best friend." and I want to tell you this secret. He goes, but I want to make sure that you're my best friend. So we're going to pinky swear when I tell you my secret. So we pinky swear. We're sitting on the floor, we pinky swear. All right? So he waits another Saturday before we sit down. He goes, we're going to have lunch. Yeah, we sit down, we're talking. He goes, I'm going to tell you my secret. I go, yeah, what's your secret? Right? And I'm thinking about, because I was a little pissed this morning because this guard was on my case with this. You know, some days you don't want to hear that shit. You know what I mean? Quit selling drugs in my prison. Quit selling drugs in my prison. I'm like, whatever. But I got this little kid, so my focus is on this kid, and he's like, he goes, I have a secret. I go, what's your secret? He goes, I can't go with my mommy because my mommy's boyfriend doesn't like me at the house. I mean, my mommy doesn't like me at the house with her and the boyfriend because she says I mess up her life. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. He goes, and when I tell her what happened, she tells me I have to go home and I can't go back. And I'm like, so what happens? And he goes, my mommy's boyfriend touches me in these places and does these things. And I'm, whoa, my voice is gonna start cracking, right? So I'm kind of floored. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? I'm trying not to let him see that I'm taking it so serious, but I'm like, what? And he's like, my mommy's boyfriend, he touched me and he pulled my pants on, he does. And I said, and your mommy? And she goes, and my mommy says if I touch, I'm messing up her relationship with her boyfriend to go stay with my grandma. That's why I'm with my grandma. And I'm like, oh, shit. Right? And so I'm like, fuck, wow. And I know my responsibility in this is to make sure that this kid gets some help. So what I immediately do is, when we finish with our lunch, we go back into the group, I get my sponsor's attention, and we do a little sidebar. We step out, me and him, and then I tell him what's going on. Hey, this kid just told me that he's being molested, right? And he says, you know what you have to do. You know what you have to do. So I'm like, okay. I'm gonna go back in, and then in a few minutes we're gonna have an impromptu break, and we're gonna have a little 30-minute break. We'll come out and sit, and then I'm gonna invite you in our circle. So what happens is we go back in, we sit for a minute, and then we sit, and then the sponsor says, hey, we're gonna take a 10-minute break, 30-minute break. Something's going on in the institution. We're just gonna have lunch early. So we're gonna have another extra lunch, actually extended, right? So we go back out into the thing. Me and Timmy are sitting on the floor again, and we're talking, right? And then I say, hey, Tim, I'm your best friend, right? He goes, yes. I go, well, I want you to meet my other best friend, right? His name is Matthew, right? Matthew's my sponsor. And I'm like, and Matthew comes, sits on the floor with us, right? And we start talking, and then I say, Tim, we're all best friends. I need you to tell my best friend Matthew our secret. No. You're my best friend, not him. I go, but he's my best friend, and we are all best friends, right? And he says, okay. And he says, well, every time I go to my mommy's, that's why I don't get to go and play that much there, because my mommy says that I'm messing up her relationship. And then he tells my sponsor what happens to him when he goes to his, and my sponsor's like, oh, shit. So now my sponsor, Matthew, was married, wife, 3 daughters, 1 middle school, 2 high school, right? Fast forward, about 6, 7, 8 months after reporting that, my sponsor and his wife and the kids adopted this kid, right? And so I was like, you know, walk by faith, not by sight. Am I a good person? Am I not? I'm like, well, what good person? I said, I must have some value if this little child can confess to me of all these people, all the people he could have talked to, that someone was harming him, and I was able to help alter the course of his life. So there is some self-worth in that, right? So this officer talking about selling drugs and stuff in my hallway, what the heck is that, right? This is as I'm doing my inventory that night after this thing had happened, right? So fast forward, about a month and a half later, you know what I mean? I've since continued to hear this, Walker was selling drugs in my hallway. One morning I'm coming out, those same folders that he accused me of having drugs in, I'm walking out into the hallway, and this officer, right, Strickland, he's like, Walker, can I speak to you for a minute? I'm like, sure. So I pull over to the side because they're releasing for work and trade and school and all that, right? And so people are going out, and I'm waiting, I'm looking, shuffling my books. I look at him, I'm like, yeah, what's going on? He's like, oh, give me a minute, right? Let everybody go right. I'm like, okay. So now it's pretty much empty in the thing, and I'm like, so what's going on, Strickland? Let me get my stuff together before I leave. And he's hesitant. So it makes me look up into his face, right? So I look, and I look at his face, and I see the tears are in his eyes. So I'm like, whoa. I'm like, oh, well, what's up, Strickland? And he tells me this. He says, Walker, My wife and I, we have 3 kids, and our oldest daughter's in high school. She's 14, 15. She's 15 years old. And she will not talk to us. She won't say anything to us. She won't communicate with us. And this is our baby, and we don't want to lose her. And I was hoping that I could bring my daughter into this prison, and you could speak to my daughter and help her. And I was like, absolutely, because this is what I do. But at the same time, I was thinking, walk by faith, not by sight. Walker, quit selling drugs in my prison. The same person that was telling me, quit selling drugs in my prison, is now asking me to help save his baby. You know what I mean? And so that gave me my self-worth. Those were the signs that I was so-called asking for from my higher power, right? Like, Lord, show me I'm on the right path. Hell yeah, I'm helping people. And this is what I continue to do today. So I want to say to all of you, throughout your day, always be mindful of other people, because we never know what others are going through. You know what I mean? And God bless you all. Have a wonderful day.